Okay. That was it, right? There wasn't more than 6 people?
It was about 6. Yeah, that's my recollection.
Okay.
I don't see Pam Ball back, and
Oh, you're right.
she's master naturalist. We definitely want her.
Derek's iPhone. Y'all know Derek?
Derek, yeah, that's Derek Mims, yeah, probably Derek Mims. Raul Pena, he was first one on. I don't know who he is.
Think that should be it. You should still be able to navigate your slideshow.
Okay, very good. Yeah, awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you. Another disaster narrowly averted with lightning fast reflexes and quick thinking. Thank you very much. So, okay, well, let's see if we can carry on and not get rudely interrupted. So anyway, that's what a rookery is. It's a collection of birds that congregate together for the, purpose of procreation and protection. Ground nesters and shrub nesters. And so interesting things occur at rookeries. It's a great place for birds to get to know one another. And it's also a great place to show off and be proud of your plumage. Right. So, and it's also a place where, there are squabbles fighting over territory as this snowy egret is pushing these spoonbill roseates away and from its nesting area. And it's a place where they gather stuff to build nests with, like this cormorant is stripping the limbs off of the willow tree, this black willow, or this cattle egret is carrying on with a live oak limb. And then eventually they get around to laying eggs. And then those eggs hatch, and then they have to feed the little birds, right? And the little birds grow up to be little dinosaurs. And so rookeries are beautiful, beautiful spots where we see the vibrance of nature and how nature renews itself. And there's a lot of appeal to rookeries. So what is an urban avian conflict zone? So it's very simple. It's basically where there's a negative interaction between birds and people. And that can take a lot of different types of formats. So for example, it could be as simple as barn swallows or cliff or cave swallows creating a mud nest in the corner of your porch. And people don't like to have their little porches messed up. And so that could be a form of conflict zone. It could be a goose, Canada goose or Egyptian goose that take over parks or golf courses. That's been known to happen. Or it could be rookeries in residential areas, which is a real problem. And they've had problems with that in Dallas. They've had problems with that in a number of towns where cattle egrets have moved into residential areas and dominated the residential area. And so, when animals and people collide, that's a conflict zone. And the main causes of that is, quite frankly, we're an invasive species. People are an invasive species. We have increased our urban areas. We prided out native areas, but we also like to have green spaces. So what do? We create parks. And so then the animals have been crowded out, come back and they say, oh, here's a green space. And they try to turn that green space into their space. And so we kind of have a little bit of a disagreement over the use of that space, right? So that's what a urban avian conflict is. And there are legal protections for birds. So let's talk about that for a little bit. The Migratory Bird Treaty Act was passed in 1918. It was done by the Audubon Societies, in fact, and as a way to try to save the birds that were being slaughtered by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands for the millinery trade. People who make hats or milliners. And it was strengthened in the mid-70s by the Endangered Species Act. And it's very specific and it's very to the point. These laws are, it says that it is unlawful to pursue, hunt, take, capture, kill, possess, sell, purchase, barter, import, export, transport any migratory bird or any part of that bird or a nest or an egg unless authorized under permit, meaning that there's always an escape valve for those that want to break the law. But it goes on further to describe the word take. What exactly does it mean to take a bird? So that means to pursue, hunt, shoot, wound, kill, trap, capture, collect, attempt to pursue, hunt, wound, kill, trap, capture, or collect any of these birds. And so this is a very, very strong law that is very, very enforceable. And currently the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Environmental Species Act covers over 1,000 species that migrate from South America to North America to Canada and back again. And also as well as residential species as well. The one species that it doesn't include are invasive species. So for example, house sparrows are not protected under this law. European starlings are not protected under this law. So, but all the other birds have these legal protections that are very stringent. So what is incidental take? So we talked about what take is, and that's the intentional killing of birds. But what happens when somebody's undergoing an activity and accidentally or through the process of what they're doing in a normal course of business kills a bird? And that's what an incidental take is. It is death due to activities that is otherwise lawful. So that includes things like clearing land. The golden cheek warbler is an endangered species. When developers clear out in golden cheek warbler habitat, they have to get permission to do that because they're killing those birds. Road construction. This happened up in Bernie last year, so they're doing all that construction on I-10. They had to take down one of the overpasses because they wanted to rebuild it, and that project got delayed for 3 months because there were cave swallows and cliff swallows nesting underneath that bridge, and they couldn't take that bridge down until those swallows had moved on. So there's you know, all these situations where the normal activities of man collide with normal activities of birds. And in order to get around that, there is what is known as an incidental take permit. You know, it sounds like a lot of legalese, but it'll all come together in here in a minute. And these are issued by the federal, by the Fish and Wildlife, USDA Fish and Wildlife Service, to those parties who are doing activities that are otherwise legal, but are going to kill or maim birds in the process. So what is exactly the conflict that we're dealing with our urban rookeries here in San Antonio? So let's start with Brackenridge Park and the bond fund. In 2017, the city of San Antonio passed a bond to do upgrades to Brackenridge Park around Lambert Beach and the pump house. And in the process of doing that, the city determined that they needed to cut down some trees in order to get to those structures that they wanted to rebuild. But there were birds in those trees, and those birds were protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, so they couldn't cut the trees, right? So this became a problem for them. They couldn't continue on with their project. The San Antonio Zoo had a problem because the cattle egrets, who were also nesting in those trees, were flying into the zoo and taking the fortified food that the zoo was feeding to whooping cranes and flamingos and other special birds that they had within the zoo. So the cattle egrets were taking this food and eating it, and it was fortified. And what that did is that bulked up the cattle egrets. So now their brood sizes were not only larger, but they were having more. So all of a sudden now we got these really, hyped up cattle egrets going around. So that was a problem, all right? And then the San Antonio River Authority was concerned about water quality. These rookeries, these birds produce a lot of guano, and it eventually hits the ground, eventually washes into the river and causes an increase in E. coli. So they were concerned about the water quality as a result of that. The Air Force Base had a problem with birds at Elmendorf Lake. They were accusing the cattle egrets at Elmendorf Lake that used to be there of wanting to fly to the landfill. And when they made that path, they had to cross Lackland Air Force Base. And that created what they called a BASH, or bird airstrike hazard. So in the mornings, the cattle egrets would fly over to the landfill, create a hazard for airplanes taking off. And in the evening, they would come back and same thing would happen. So I'm not justifying or saying that all of these situations are right or wrong or indifferent, but those are the reasons that are being cited by the city and by the Air Force Base for doing what they're doing. And what exactly are they doing, right? So they are conducting what is known as deterrence. So let's talk about deterrence at these rookeries. So the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, has outlined certain methods of deterring rookeries, and they're on a sliding scale of severity. And it starts with thinning the canopy. They say, if you want to get rid of a rookery or reduce a rookery, before the birds come and start nesting, thin the canopy to less than 70% coverage. Because the birds like to be able to walk from limb to limb to limb to limb when they're in their rookery. And so thinning the canopy prevents them from doing that. The next level of escalation is harassment. So when the birds come, you start to harass the birds. You can do that with scary eye balloons, like what's pictured here, noisemakers, pyrotechnics, shooting off little bombs, lasers, streamers, anything to make the bird and birds uncomfortable, right? And then the next level of severity is actual removal of nesting material. So as the birds come and they land and they put in a stick, you can take that stick back down again. And if you keep doing that, hopefully the birds move on and get tired of it. But that's another method of deterrence. And then the ultimate escalation is lethal take. That is the final move, if you will. And the city has and what is known as an ITP, which is an incidental take permit. And that is, it's been issued to them through the USDA, and this is what is governing their deterrence program at the parks. And it's a multi-year ITP, goes on for, I think, another 10 years, so they've got plenty of time on it. And it covers all of their park activities. And so it started in at Brackenridge Park last year, where they started doing their deterrence. They were out there with clappers, and they had already thinned the canopy, and then as the birds came in, they had clappers, because initially the rookery was around where the river was. What this deterrence did is it pushed the birds deeper into the park, into that oak forest right behind Joskey's Pavilion and the Whitty Museum. And there they happily took up camp and had established the rookery. And that's where these pictures came from. These are all Brackenridge Park. And you can see by the cattle egret in the middle that their attempts at using the scary eye balloons was unsuccessful. So, and so that was last year, 2022. And compare that with what we have this year. It's a much different picture. It's a little bit more dramatic. Some might say it's a lot more dramatic. So they put up fencing with this black lining that you can't see through, and they moved in lift equipment. And so they went ahead and thinned the canopy in that oak area where the birds nested last year. They left the lift equipment there so that whenever a bird landed, they could lift themselves up and scare the bird away. If the bird attempted to lay a stick in the tree, they could take that stick back down. Remember that escalation of deterrence skills. So a very intensive deterrence program being conducted at Bracken Ridge Park, and it has been successful. There are no egrets, there are no cormorants, there are no cattle egrets, no night herons in this area of the park. They have gone, if you're curious,
Yeah.
they have moved to a space on Olmos Creek. You know where headwaters of the Incarnate Word is, the sanctuary? So they've moved into that section of Olmos Creek, just up from the Little Blue Hole towards Olmos Dam. And I don't know if they're anywhere else, but I do know for a fact that they're there, because I've been there to see them and count them. And it is primarily all cattle egrets, and say at least 90% cattle egrets. And then the other 10% are other bird species like snowy egrets, great egrets, little blue herons, tricolored herons, saw that out there. So, but it's primarily cattle egrets that are the what are in that area. So that's kind of where we are right now with Bracken Ridge Park. Elmendorf Park is has gone through a sine wave of changes. In 2019, 2020, that winter, the Air Force decided that the rookery at Bird Island in Elmendorf Park had to go, and engaged the city to do that. And this being military city, when the military says this is what we really want, then the city fathers pretty much capitulated. So after the birds had left Bird Island in November, the city came in and cleaned the island up, took the all the canopy down, stripped it down. They wore hazmat suits, they cleaned up all the bird guano, and it worked. For the next year, there were no birds at Bird Island. Then last year came about, this is now 21-22, and this is when the city started their deterrence at Bracken Ridge, right? That's when they were doing the clappers and all that stuff. And that caused some of the birds to say, well, this is not a good place to be, but I know a good place to go. And they went to Elmendorf. And so this is a picture of Elmendorf Lake last year, in I think March or so. And as you can see, very, very happily ensconced birds at Elmendorf Lake. And that's what it looks like this year. There are no birds at Elmendorf Lake. So over the winter, they came in, they put in these streamers, because remember, that's part of the escalation period. They cleaned out some of the canopy. They put in these streamers. I have been told, I don't know this firsthand experience, but I've been told that they've also used noise abatement and pyrotechnics out there as well to keep the birds away. To the best of my knowledge, there are no birds on Bird Island as a result of their deterrence. So my assumption is that all those birds have moved to the rookery space that I was telling you about at Headwaters. So what is the root cause of this problem? In order to be able to solve a problem, you have to understand what its root cause is. And the root cause of this problem is our good buddy habitat destruction. There used to be rookeries in the southern part of Bexar County, at least 3 that we know of. And over time, these rookeries got destroyed. As these rookeries got destroyed, those birds looked for another place to go and nest. Being colonial nesters, being social birds, they were flying around, and then they saw the birds at Elmendorf Lake, they saw the birds at Brackenridge, and they said, there's my brother. And so they came and landed and increased the size of the rookery dramatically. I'm not sure about Elmendorf, but I know at Brackenridge that the bird population at Brackenridge Park doubled year over year from 2018 through 2021 when they started doing their initial deterrence. So this overpopulation helped to create the conflict that we were talking about before, where you had a lot of birds creating a lot of perceived, underlined perceived damage to what the city was trying to accomplish, and then making it difficult for them to get what they wanted done. So the ultimate root cause is that these birds had a home, that home was destroyed, they came into town, and now we want to get rid of them. And the game at present is a whack-a-mole game. They're trying to deter the birds without having any kind of strategy around where are the birds going to go. And so that is, in my estimation, the root cause of the problem. So let's ask this question. What are colonial nesting birds looking for? So ultimately, they want a safe place from predators. They like islands, which is why Bird Island at Elmendorf Lake is such a popular place for them to go to. They like islands because the island is surrounded by water, and water deters land-based predators, skunks and raccoons and things of that nature. So they like that. They need a food source. They need a good food source to be able to provide the nutrients for the birds that they are raising. And they need material to build nests, and they need vertical and horizontal space to create those nests away from one another. And so that's what they're looking for. So what do we do about this? How do we take a look at this and say, how do we mitigate the situation? Because it's not a happy situation for a lot of reasons. So one potential solution is to say, well, let's try to reverse the process. Since part of what got us into this trouble was habitat destruction and elimination of rookery sites, what if we try to reestablish those rookery sites away from the urban center, away from airports, where there are these perceived conflicts with the bird? The goal of doing that would be to reduce the population size of the rookeries that are in town, not to eliminate those rookeries, but merely to make those rookery sizes manageable. And so how do we do that? Well, one idea would be to create multiple sites, multiple rookery sites. And the idea about doing multiple rookery sites is it increases the probability of success. If you just create one site, then it's a binary. You either win or you lose. But if you create 3 or 4 sites, then you increase that probability that there's going to be a scout that comes along, sees what you've created as a potential habitat for that area, and says, I'm going to land. And if you can get one bird to land and start nesting, then the others will come. That's what the goal is. So what we're looking for are ponds or lakes that have water all year long. And we can simulate the islands using this concept of artificial nesting structures, which we'll talk about more in just a moment. And we can manage the population for that particular site based on the number of artificial nesting structures that we put up. So that's kind of the big idea. So what are artificial nesting structures? These are used all around the world, have been used in a lot of different ways under a lot of different circumstances. And basically they're man-made structures that are designed in such a way that the colonial nesting birds will come and create and build their nests on them. And there's some advantages to these. One is that they simulate the islands that the birds like. So if we have a pond or a lake, and out in the middle of that pond or lake, we start building these nesting structures, then that creates an area that's surrounded by water and makes the birds feel safe. They're very inexpensive. They're very cheap, especially compared to, I can't imagine what the cost of the deterrence programs that are going on at Brackenridge alone. But in comparison, these are in the order of magnitude of tens of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they're very inexpensive and they're very durable. One of the problems with rookeries is they are very hard on a habitat. So when these birds come and they build their nests on the trees, the birds are fairly heavy. They're big birds. Their nests are heavy. When their fledgling starts to grow, they're even heavier. So there's a lot of weight on the limbs, causing limb breakage. Because of what they call guanotrophy, the bird guano, the bird poop, it degrades the habitat overall, which also further weakens the trees and ultimately kills the trees. So, rookeries are hard on habitat. So one of the advantages of using an artificial nesting structure is that they're very, very durable and they relieve that stress off of the natural habitat. And then there's all different kinds of designs, all different kinds of shapes and styles of artificial nesting structures that can be utilized, as you can see here, from poles where you create cross members on the poles in a rotating style, so no one nest is directly above another nest. So think of it as the cardinal directions. You have one facing north, one facing east, one facing south, one facing west. And you can put these in that way. A simple platform, like in the second example here, this is at High Island and east of Houston. A simple platform with cyclone fencing on the top of it. That other example is these are aluminum baskets. This example right here where it's durable. Those are aluminum frame baskets set up on top of poles. That's in Delaware, I believe, Middlebrook Island, Delaware. And the list goes on. So you can design these things to try to attract the birds. So in short, the overall suggested strategy to try to find some sort of relief or some sort of mitigation for the problem that we have is to find ponds or lakes that have a desired shoreline and have water year round. So what is a desired shoreline? Generally, it's a gently sloping shoreline where these are all wading birds so that they can wade and go and fish for the aquatic species that they're looking for. We simulate the islands with artificial nesting structures. We manage the population for a specific size of habitat by the number of artificial nesting structures that we put up. So if it's a big lake, we can put up quite a number of artificial nesting structures. If it's a small lake, we use a much smaller number. And that way we try to indirectly manage the population size for the carrying capacity of that lake. We can use decoys to try to attract the birds to these sites initially. What's been used in the past is, those pink flamingo lawn, take a can of white spray paint, and then you stick them up. And, it looks like a colonial nesting bird to the colonial nesting birds. That has been used with varying levels of success. Not always, but it has been used with success. But the whole idea, like I said before, if we can get one, we can get many. If we can get one area started, then the rest of this stuff will build out, because that's what these birds do. They look for their own type of bird. They look for other colonial nesters to build in. But there are some challenges with this. This is an idea, but it's not a perfect idea. And so what are the challenges? Well, ultimately, the birds are going to do what the birds are going to do. We can ask them to do these things, but if they don't want to do it, there's not much we can do about that, except to try to make these habitats as friendly to them as possible. The other thing is this has not really ever been done before, not quite this way. There have been a lot of rookery sites that have been built with artificial nesting structures and other things, but generally those are close to existing rookeries. This is the first time that anything of this magnitude has been tried. And by magnitude, what I'm saying is that the rookeries that we want to influence, the urban rookeries that we want to influence, are in the middle of San Antonio. And what we're wanting to do is to draw that population out of the middle of San Antonio, some 10 or 15 miles, to outside of the urban bubble. That's a long distance. And the idea about trying to use southern Bexar County is these birds migrate up from South America. So we want them to encounter these friendly nesting sites first before going on into town. It's a thought. Another problem is the lack of vegetation. These birds like to have trees and things like that around them. If you take a pond and put artificial nesting structures out there, there's no vegetation around that. Is that a problem? Could be. Like I said, this hasn't been done before. There's a lot of opportunity here for really, really good science. One of the things that I've personally discovered in trying to research this is that there is literally no science out there on this at all. There is a handful of papers that talk about how do you deter a rookery, but there is nothing out there about how do you create a successful rookery and how do you use it as a management tool for managing a rookery that's some distance away. So there's all kinds of science opportunities here, from not only the whole concept of can you build it and impact a rookery that's somewhere else, but what about the nesting structures? Which ones do they prefer? Do they like the poles? Do they want the platforms? What do they want? There's all kinds of opportunity here to extend our science. The other challenge is that it can take a number of years for this to take place. Just because you build it doesn't mean it'll happen in the first year or the second year or the third year. Doesn't mean it'll happen at all. We don't know. That's the whole aspect of this, is we don't know. But just because it hasn't been tried before doesn't mean that we can't, right? Ultimately, the financial aspect of this is insignificant compared to what is being expended. The real challenge is trying to find suitable locations. And the real desire is to make sure that these locations are publicly accessible, because we want people to come and look at rookeries and be absolutely enamored with the power of nature. And a rookery can really do that. In other areas where they have publicly accessible rookeries, and I'm going to use Smith Oaks at High Island as a good example. When they built a boardwalk along the edge of their rookery site there and opened it up to the public, they literally have standing room only out there all spring long for their rookery. And you know who's coming? Not hardcore birders. It's families. It's families. It's people with kids who want to try to bring their kids to nature and bring themselves to nature. So there's a real opportunity if we can put these things in a place that's publicly accessible to boost ecotourism for San Antonio, Texas. And if we can boost ecotourism in San Antonio, Texas, the indirect consequence of that is it gives those of us in the conservation business a little bit more clout. We can talk dollars and cents to the city fathers and say, we're impacting the economics of this town. And so that's a very, very powerful motivation. In my mind, it is anyway. And then ultimately, what we're doing is we're expanding favorable habitat. And anytime you expand habitat, that's always a good thing. So with that, thank you very much for listening to me. Hopefully some of this has been useful to you. And if you have any questions, happy to talk about whatever items you have on your mind.
Okay, I think we should take the questions in the room first, and then we'll take the questions. Can you look at the questions on the, Wendell, on the,
Yep,
okay.
let me stop the recording
Chris-
too.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna stop recording now,
Where's
so
the recording?
you can say whatever you want.
It
You
would
want me to
be
take
probably
the-
up here. Oh, it's on. How do we get up there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Anya.
So, does the city have alternative sites for the rookeries to start? I have two for you,
Oh, yay.
Southside Lions and Lakeside.
The part of the problem with Southside Lions Club is that it is still in the urban core. And what I'm trying to do is find a place that's outside of the urban core.
Well, Lakeside would definitely do that. That's outside of 410 by, going towards China Grove.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
and it's not habited by very many people because the majority of people that use that area are the neighbors that live in that.
Right, so is that publicly owned or?
Yes.
Is it? Okay, so
The
that's,
city-
that's good ingredient.
And there's lots of vegetation around it. There's water there, so they won't be impacting very much. The airport is far away, you know.
Right, right.
And there's a
That's
couple
good
other-
direction towards China Grove, yeah.
Yes, and there's a couple other creeks in that area.
And that's also East Central District,
Yes.
there's a lot of ag.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and A&M is out there too, that does
Yes.
a lot of ag.
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
What is the name of it again?
Lakeside.
Lakeside.
Yeah.